I'm going to scroll back up and we'll start task 4E, add map labels. Back in ArcGIS Pro, in the contents pane, I'm going to select the dots feature layer to activate the labeling ribbon. Go ahead and click on the labeling ribbon. And then in the labeling ribbon on the far left, I'm going to click Enable Labeling. That's going to turn on the labels in my map for the dots. If I zoom in, I can see that. And then in the label class group, you can see I can set the field. So it's set to label. And if I right click on the dots feature layer and open up the attribute table, you can see there are some null values in the label, but if I scroll down, all of the large stars, and then all the way down to the bottom, all of the large spots have label values, and that is what is turned on in the dots layer labeling. Go ahead and close the dots table view. Now we want to go ahead and turn the labels off for a second because we're going to label the large stars and large spots separately. So I'm going to click on the drop down for class and select create label classes from symbology. And in the create label classes from symbology window, I'm going to uncheck everything except for the large star and large spot. Go ahead and click OK. All right, so now when we go back to the class dropdown and click on it, we can see we have two classes, large star and large spot. So I'm going to select large star, and we're going to configure the labels for each of our classes. First, I'm going to turn on the labels by enabling the labeling. And then for the large star, I think we're going to change the point size from 10 points to 12 points. And notice on the map view, you can see them getting a little bit larger. And now I'm going to switch the class from large star to large spot. And we're going to make the field also set to label. And then I'm going to increase the point size this time up to 16 points. And so notice on the visual hierarchy that now the large spots are more significant or on a higher intellectual hierarchy than the large stars. Now we still have a problem, and that is that some of the labels are covering up our underlying features or maybe crossing our island boundary. And so it's distracting and it doesn't look good, but we can set the weights to reconfigure the labeling to respect our features. So I'm going to go to More and click on Weights. And then in the label weight ranking, I'm going to change the feature weight for paths to 1,000 so the labels don't draw on the paths. And I'm also going to change the polygon boundary weight for islands to 500. So a little bit less of a weight, but still it's going to discourage labels from crossing the boundary of the islands, basically the coastline. So I click OK, it redraws the map, and you can see it reconfigures the labels so they look a lot better. I'm going to go back to the layout ribbon and zoom to my extent, save my ArcGIS Pro project, and now I'm ready to begin Task 4F, Insert Tables, where we'll add the character tables to the game board. We'll position the tables for Wendy and Michael stacked on the left side, and for Peter and John Darling stacked on the right side. And so if we scroll the contents down all the way to the bottom, we can see the 4 standalone tables. I'm going to select Wendy Darling because I'm going to insert that table first. Activate the Insert ribbon. And then in the Map Surrounds group, I'm going to click on the table frame. So if I click on the drop down, I can see different ways I can format the table. I'm just going to accept the default formatting, click on the table button itself, and then click and drag a rectangle in the upper left-hand corner of my map. And if I zoom in, you can see it's inserted all 24 outcomes by location for the Wendy Darling character card. I want to go ahead in the contents pane and rename it from table frame to Wendy table frame. So I'm going to be inserting the other characters as well, and I want to be able to keep track of them. And then now I want to format my table frame. So I'm going to right click on it, select properties, and that opens the Wendy table frame pane. And so I want to reformat my text And so I'm going to switch over to the display panel and scroll down to the heading section. And then there, I'm going to switch the color of the heading text to the same blue that I'm using for the windy character path. And I'm going to bump up the field names, make them bigger, maybe say 16 point. So they're higher on the visual hierarchy. And then for the rows, again, I'm going to change it to the same color as the windy character path and make the body or the rows 12 points. All right, that looks good. The last thing I would do is switch out the background so that it highlights the fact that we have 4 outcomes for each location. So I'm going to go ahead and increase background 1 to 4 rows and increase background 2 to 4 rows. Now that looks pretty good with minimal changes to the formatting. I'd also like, I think, to align my text. So I'm going to click on the text symbol panel. And below the appearance section, I'm going to locate the position section, expand that. And then for horizontal alignment, I'm going to go ahead and center all the text on my table. Now, if you like your changes, make sure you hit apply or have auto apply enabled. You can also format individual fields by highlighting those fields in the contents pane and then setting the parameters in the element pane. I'm going to zoom out to my full extent. Now I want you to insert a formatted Michael table frame with brown text below the Wendy table frame, and then a Peter table frame with green text in the upper right corner, and a John table frame with purple text in the lower right corner. And then I will join you on the other side as we finish up formatting the tables. All right, so I've just inserted my John table frame, formatted the text, and now I'm going to center my text. Go ahead and close the panes I'm not using anymore. And I'm going to reposition the table using the context-sensitive guides. That looks pretty good. Need to keep my contents clean and orderly, so I'm going to rename my table frame as John table frame. All right, now let's save the ArcGIS Pro project. In task 4G, we'll insert images. We'll add cartoon images of Wendy, Peter, Michael, and John above their respective table that will help game players more easily identify their character outcomes. And we'll begin by activating the insert ribbon, and in graphics and or text, click on the picture button. And in the insert picture window, I'm going to browse to my course folder, to my projects folder, into the Modeling Neverland folder, all the way down in my source data folder. And I'm going to locate the Wendy image. So I think it's down at the bottom maybe. So scroll all the way down to the bottom. There it is, wendy.png. Go ahead and select that image and click OK. And then now I'm going to click and drag a rectangle above the Wendy character table. And that inserts my Wendy image. I'm going to go ahead and reposition it by just kind of moving it around and then selecting both the image and the table and repositioning that on my layout as well, maybe a little further down on the page. There, that looks pretty good. I need to move the Wendy image, and sometimes it's hard to click and drag the image, but you can hold the Shift or Control and use the arrow keys to more precisely move an element around your layout. So go ahead and insert the Peter, Michael, and John images, and I'll meet you on the flip side. All right, so I've inserted all my character images. I've shown you how you can select and reposition elements on your map by using context-sensitive guides, but you can add formal guides too by right-clicking on a ruler and selecting Add Guide, and then I can select the little caret and position the guide exactly where I want it. And then I can select elements in my layout and use them to snap to the guide. So I'm going to add one here on the bottom as well. Reposition my guide, and then reposition my elements so they snap to my guides. And then if I right-click the caret and select Remove All Guides, it removes those formal guides. All right, that looks great. There is an issue now with my map. I wanted to pan it more to the center, and the text is interfering with the table. And so I can do that by going to the Layout ribbon. And in the Navigate group, that's how I move the layout around, zoom in and out. But if I want to move my map around, I'm going to go ahead and zoom to extent real quick. On the Layout ribbon, I need to go to the Map group and then click on the Activate button, and that activates the map frame. And then now when I zoom or pan the map, it actually zooms and pans the map. So I'm going to position it in the center of my layout. There, that looks pretty good. The text is not running into the table anymore, and it's centered. Once you're done, you want to click back to close the activation, or go to the Layout ribbon and click on Close Activation. And then now, when I navigate again, I'm back in the Layout navigation. All right, we got a few more images that we want to add a little spice to our map. And we're going to start with the Start Here image, which is going to be a little image of London. So I'm going to go to the Insert ribbon and click on the Picture button. And in the Insert Picture, I'm going to select London and click OK. And up near the Start Here, I'm going to place a little picture of London, and then either use my mouse to reposition it or hold the Shift or Control key while the picture is selected and use the arrow keys to reposition it. I also want to insert a Captain Hook image. I'm going to do mine down here. You can do yours wherever you want. I just wanted to add a little balance and put some characters at the bottom of my page. And then you can see that they're all called pictures, so I want to rename them by selecting them. You can see the elements selected in the layout and then renaming them. So like Wendy, and then this is going to be Michael. So go ahead and make sure you rename all of your pictures. Captain Hook. That looks pretty good, but I'm not done. I forgot. We have Tinkerbell, one of the most important characters in the Peter Pan story. So I'm going to insert Tinkerbell. I'm going to put her up near Skull Rock and then reposition her. And then, of course, in the contents pane, I'm going to rename the picture as Tinkerbell. All right, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and save my project before I proceed.